New day, new market.
Yo, what's up, guys? Vivachi, NVK, UV Star, Shroot, Winghong, PD. How are you all doing? Let me turn on this background music a little bit. Yeah, I would agree, Anthony. I mean, this correction is not very deep so far. It looks like like we have at least one more move higher over the coming days, potentially. But it's so similar to what XRP did before it broke out. I had just noticed. Oh, what am I doing? I don't think we're gonna have any deep retracements. But this correction Litecoin had, well XRP had, is very similar to that ABC correction XRP had. And then this kind of choppy grindy move up before that initial impulse off the lows that went right back to the range highs, and that's kind of where we're at here with Litecoin. It just broke above and now we're going sideways. XRP went sideways for like a week, but I think Litecoin can break out here. Honestly, Litecoin looks way stronger off the bottom than XRP did back before it broke out. And I think Litecoin's move is going to be way stronger. I've thought that forever. But I think we're going to get a lot of these like temporary pauses, but I don't think the retracement is going to be very deep. And it looks to me like on the super low time frames that this was initial wave 1, 2, 3 sideways, wave 4 correction, and we have at least one more move higher, probably at least back to these range highs. If we break them, we fully send, but probably more sideways correction if around 140, 130, 140. What's up, John? It's time. MK. Hola, muchachos. SEC won't approve anything until the government reopens? That's possible. If Litecoin just starts ripping before it's more bullish, it'll attract a lot of inflows. Right now, still, even though Litecoin's moved pretty hard, we haven't seen any real uptick in search interest. Litecoin should continue to surprise. More people are paying attention to it though in crypto land, except they're kind of, a lot of people are distracted with like Zcash. I think it's funny. I don't know if this is true, but it seems like some people were paid off to just pump this thing, market it as like get Bitcoin maxis, which are really just sellout influencers to start marketing Zcash. It literally is going down forever in transaction activity. And even though it spikes now, all these are speculative transactions. It's been down only since 2017. I don't know, maybe the privacy tech is good, but that doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter how good the tech is, it's what people use. And nobody adopted it. What's up, Dewey? Yeah, but if we can, the crowd will start paying attention 3/4 of the way to all-time highs. Shouldn't expect a lot of attention until like 300 bucks. That's what happens every time. But yeah, we got AZTEC coming here in like 45 minutes. I'll send the link here shortly. But so far, this looks good. I mean, we don't have a ton of leverage that came in here. Funding rates are still neutral. So grinding sideways is actually pretty bullish. We were on a 9 on the 4-hour. Usually get a correction of at least 4 candles or so. The fact that this rally was not driven by a huge increase in open interest and mostly spot buying is bullish to me. And we haven't even had a significant breakout in volume yet either. So kind of broke out here, but I mean still well below. The previous highs. Let me take off these overlays. I don't know why there's double overlay on there. Yeah, Anthony, I think it could come tomorrow. I mean, we've been waiting. I think most of us are just in spot. But a $20 candle takes us right back to that 140 level. It's not even that significant. What, like 15%, 20%? Could get a repeat of this move. This was 15%. Yeah. Get ready. You have no Zcash, Litecoin has privacy. Yeah, I don't know much about Zcash's privacy. Nobody uses it. Friday's usually dumpage across markets in this environment. I don't know, have Fridays historically been bad days for crypto? I haven't kept track. But Bitcoin's very close. To breaking the all-time highs. Ideally, Bitcoin rips here. You think we're gonna head to 88 to $95 by December? I don't know. I wouldn't bet on that happening. Anything's possible, but this looks like the strongest move Litecoin's had over the last 3 years. So I think we're headed to all-time highs this month. Be my guess. Seriously though, Litecoin has not had back-to-back 12-hour candles like this significant of a move, even though it's not huge yet at any point in the last 3 years. It really even wasn't like this in 2021. This is really the strongest move we've had in Litecoin in like 7-8 years, but it should just be starting. And this is going to continue tomorrow or shortly. It's ready. Litecoin is Bitcoin, yeah. When the market figures that out, we'll be should be rich by then. Transactions haven't really changed. Slight spike up because of the price breakout, but not much. I don't know if this is right. Bitcoin at 374,000 transactions looks super weak. Is this even accurate? Litecoin's gonna pass Bitcoin by a lot, I think. If I had to guess, if we get a 10x move in price, I think transaction activity gets pretty close to like 1 million transactions a day. Right, a similar move in 2017 without much like organic adoption, move price, move network activity 10x. So it kind of followed price. And then we got like a 6-7x move at the end of the year, and transactions followed. So I just don't know what they're gonna say if Litecoin has 2 million transactions a day with higher median transaction values, even if they're mostly speculative, and Bitcoin's at 400,000. What song is this? I can't even hear it, but it's the ambient playlist that I had been using. I don't know why I can't hear it. It's just turned on. Oh, now it's there. Let me remove this. Is it too loud? Yeah, honestly, I'm not worried about major corrections here. I think what the Litecoin community that's been here for a while has to worry about is selling too early. Because sentiment has so far to go before it aligns closer with the truth. Maybe that never happens, but I won't get if we're really gonna have a blow off. I wouldn't get that worried until you can see broader sentiment, broader people entering Litecoin, like en masse, and corresponding price increases. It's fine? Okay. Sweet. Let's see how we're doing against all these altcoins. We've got to break out soon, relatively soon. We're reaching the apex of this consolidation structure against a lot of altcoins, and then altcoins in general look like going against the broader altcoin market. Looks the same. So hopefully, well, I know, like once we break, like even if the broad Litecoin doesn't rally super hard against alts right now or against Bitcoin, once it breaks 140, 150, it will. So this, I think, inevitably, most likely breaks higher. LTC, BTC, kind of looks like it's coming down to retest this point of breakout. So this Coinbase has decent volume. Hopefully price can hold here. Break higher with Bitcoin. But the difference between Litecoin and a lot of these altcoins is it just, like with Doge, you have the 21 cycle top buyers as resistance and people who bought the hype after the election. Same with Cardano, like the same thing. The chart looks the same. 21 cycle top buyers. And people who bought on hype after that announcement are going to be selling. Litecoin has like nothing above these highs. Except I think 300 all-time highs. But most people have already been washed out over the last 5 years. So I don't think there's much. I don't think there's much resistance once we start flipping sentiment. So done with crypto after Litecoin moons. I don't think I'll ever be done. I just am so done with the speculative hype. I want to see this market develop into something that's useful for regular, ordinary people and not just continual expansion of speculation. So I'd invest in like decentralized exchanges or decentralized mining infrastructure. Things that will help grow the crypto ecosystem, privacy tools. But yeah, after the hype, I think after this cycle, it's gonna be a wasteland for a while. Can't get any bigger pools of capital or speculators than institutions and some nation states or governments. That's when crypto will actually get really interesting to me, is after this phase. It's so annoying watching what's going on in this market. We're participating in it, obviously, because we kind of have to, but what if Litecoin or Bitcoin became proof of stake? It's not possible, really. Nobody controls its code. Like, it just depends on the people who actually accept the coin, the nodes, right? The active economic ones that are participating, that will steer the direction of what's defining what the money is. We've had it backwards for so long, where everyone's just speculating and not really participating. There's no monetary growth. And so like everyone just follows all the updates. But I would imagine if Litecoin became more mass adopted, say there were millions of active participants, it'd be really hard to make a change. People probably just say it's good the way it is and then never ever make changes, right? If the money works, and really all people will probably interact with in the future, mostly, all like normal people would be like decentralized exchanges that offer credit layers. Maybe they'd settle every now and again, but Kraken IPO is coming, is it? I didn't know Kraken was IPOing. Kraken's like the only exchange I've liked. Yeah, Litecoin was the top performing asset. I mean, again, this price action is far different than any rally we've had. This is like the first kind of impulsive move Litecoin's seen. Everything else was choppy and grindy. This is literally straight up. This is what we wanted to see. Gives us some more confidence. If we can get follow through here. Again, what people said was impossible because they'd been blinded by 8 years of choppy price action. We'll finally see Litecoin move like this. And it will be one of the few assets that moves like this that actually has a compelling fundamental story. Even though people say Litecoin has no story compared to everything else, it actually has the strongest fundamental story. But I'd expect it to change all the mental models of valuation for the Bitcoin sector. The market's so silly. It doesn't know how to price money at all. I love it when I talk dirty like this. You know, I feel like each individual case is compelling on its own, but combined together, like the technical, fundamental, long-term future view, on-chain supply restriction, getting ETF, which opens up buy-side demand, network migration. I don't know. Once people realize it's the emergence of either the most dominant Bitcoin chain or the second, so that's in people's heads. That's why, you know, I think we're not going to see very deep corrections anymore. Very limited supply. If you knew you were holding Bitcoin at $400, would you sell it at $1,000? I don't know. I don't think so. We can see the 2017 run for Litecoin in a compressed window. But I just, we have to wait and see. We have to wait and see what Bitcoin does if we get the migration. To know. How do exchange balances look? I don't know. Like, Litecoin lost so many on-chain data providers. I wish we could see long-term holder balances. I know she could see miner reserves. But how are people even checking exchange balances anymore? We used to have into the block, but they got rid of it. Yeah, we don't have miner supply data, and we don't have any good data for Litecoin on chain. That's what sucks. Like, the total network volume data is messed up. The only thing that I know we have confluence in is the total transaction data and the fact that most of these are real, because we have confluence with all the merchant processors around the world. The median transaction values seem organic and correct to me, because there's not that much minting of random tokens, and they've stayed about the same forever. I wonder if the halving hype will do anything, because the next Litecoin halving is well, it could come a lot sooner if, like, when price goes up and hash rate is added and we keep getting these. They come like a month before predicted. I think it's supposed to be July. July 27. Yeah, I don't know why they all got rid of it. It seems really weird. As it's become more relevant on chain, all the data providers stop tracking it. Like the highest growing proof of work chain. They're just like, no, we don't. It's meaningless. Litecoin's had a lot of series of unfortunate events to keep price, to keep people distracted in other coins. We had XRP here, Trump meme coin, the Argentinian president meme coin, President Trump's tweets about Cardano and stuff. Time to break through with no marketing. Yeah, does anyone have any idea what the ETF timeline looks like now? I just follow these two guys. It's crazy. It has 38 billion in open interest on the IBIT ETF. Those guys are making so much money. Their like headquarters is like a block away from where I'm at. BlackRock's main office building. It's funny, Sailors on the whole Bitcoin corporate treasury conference is 2 blocks away from where I'm at. And Litecoin's about to Rip faces off. They could have came and asked me, but they didn't. I don't know why so many people are bullish Doge. It's so funny how psychology works in crypto. Something pumps a ton, and then everyone's most excited about this, and then people keep talking about it, thinking it'll happen again. It won't. Like, honestly, what happens to the... Like, a lot of these charts look like they just were able to be reinflated. Like, a lot of these cryptocurrencies after this final cycle, I don't know how they don't just like head down to zero. Like a lot of them. Cardano included. Maybe it just like takes out the highs and then slowly heads to zero. What's up, Just Me? How you doing? Maybe I don't know. I would expect the SEC to approve like all of them at the same time if they put out these generic listing standards. As long as the issuer, which they have a huge incentive to fix whatever they need to fix to get it to that final step for them to just approve. It does suck for those issuers who spent like a year waiting all for nothing. They just a week before say, oh hey, all that work you did, it's irrelevant now. Yeah, it's hard to get good data about Litecoin. I mean, over the last like year and a half, some people had asked me and I told them about Litecoin, and they're like, where can I read about it? I would say nowhere. I'll have to write an email for you. There's not really any good information. I think PayPal already has Litecoin on their platform. I'm not that bullish long term on like retail payments. I think it's gonna have to come through decentralized exchanges. That's the only path that I see crypto becoming mainstream. I tried to send a wire transfer today, and because FedWire was down for like 5 hours. I mean, maybe in five years, we have this financial system that I think is practically insolvent and start having issues. Crypto probably will seem more stable. It will be, in my opinion, at some point. Longest time government was closed was 35 days. Yo, what up, Philip? How you doing? It's really hard to measure adoption. I've tried for a long time. You can take data from on-chain data providers and then look at merchant adoption. But like the real merchants that will eventually adopt crypto, they don't want to be known, right? They want to be anonymous and private. So it's going to be really hard to track how many people accept Litecoin. I think you have to just rely on sites like BitInfo. It's like a lot of merchants may accept crypto indirectly and not even know through services like BitPay, but those things, those types of crypto payment processors can easily get turned off too, so I'm not that optimistic about those. For now, it's fine. But you don't want to build a whole business model around a permissionless money in a permissioned type system where your whole business can just get turned off if they decide they don't like it anymore. But I think Litecoin's more popular and for actual adoption in places outside the West. I mean, the top search interest is always Madagascar, St. Helena, Nigeria, Moldova. What the hell is a Rocket Pot Litecoin? Rocket Pot Litecoin Casino? I didn't know this was a thing. Who built this? Yeah, it's bullish master to see price just consolidating sideways. I know what we want to see. And this really strong move off the bottom, like a wicking above these highs and consolidating just above, seems bullish to me. About 15 minutes until AZTEC will be here. I'm gonna go grab a drink, some water, like dehydrated. But I'll be right back in like 5 minutes or so. I might need to get coffee. I'm kind of tired. Get some water and some coffee. And I'll be back. I'm excited to talk to AZTEC. Do some push-ups. I definitely need to do some push-ups. Alright guys, I wish I could put a banner on the screen. I should make one. But I'll be back in a sec. I just want to grab some stuff before I have AZTEC in here. Yeah, it'll be cool having AZTEC. I want to get his perspective because he came kind of from outside, so I want to learn about his entire view and what motivated him. Alright guys, I'll be back in a few minutes. You guys can hang out here for a sec. Alright guys, let's create this room. I'll invite him. And then we'll be ready. Who's the guest? It's AZTEC from LitVM. He's a co-founder of it. He's been around for a while. I'm surprised he doesn't have more followers. Yeah, follow him on X there at the link. I think they went to that Singapore conference. I'll shut the music off when he joins. Yeah, token 2049. Till he joins, we'll... stare at the price chart. Play the 120 song. Yeah, I need to keep playing that. And if he has his camera, I need to figure out how to add that. I think I can pretty easily. Yeah, Zane was there. Wonder how all these guys found Litecoin. Or had they always been involved? I should post this in the marketing chat. Hell yeah, Nick. Let's go. I don't know exactly how we're gonna do this, because I usually just have people share their screens, but this will be less about charts. And I don't have a camera. So we'll see, but we'll make it work. He sent me a message that he's jumping off another call. Should be here in a sec. Give you 115. Oh, this looks pretty okay so far. I feel like we just go sideways. Maybe. Maybe you get that. Do. Hopefully we don't drop too hard during this interview. Then everyone would be depressed. But CMF looks bullish, it's increasing here. All right, AZTEC. I think, I see you in here now. Let me request your audio. I don't know why it makes me do this, but it makes me like request permission. One sec. Audio. Okay, I should be able to hear you. How's it going, sir? I'll have to add you into my OBS before they can hear you, but thank you for joining. Just give me one sec. Are you all ready? Do you want me to add your camera as well? Because I can do that too.
Totally up to you.
Okay, perfect. I'll add it in the
Whatever you want to
corner.
do.
Yeah, I don't have a camera myself. I was trying to remain anonymous, but yeah, as long as you're comfortable with that, I'll add your screen. I'll just put it in a little box at the bottom corner.
Cool.
Sweet. One sec. Let me go to guest interview screen. Properties. It should show up as big at first. Okay. I think we've got you in here. Let me make it a little bit smaller. Alright. Well, welcome, AZTEC. We kind of do this live, just on the fly with previous guests. It's not as professional as some of these other podcasters like Kyle, but that's kind of our style here, I guess.
I'm here for a good time.
Alright, sweet.
Thank you for letting me join the show with you, brother. Are we live?
We're live right now. I've been live for like an hour, but this community is super cool. So we have these hangout streams, and sometimes we have serious, more fundamental discussions. And then we've had Nick, who is more of the technical analyst, regular expert on the stream. But yeah, it's kind of always like this, off the cuff, and just try to have a honest, normal conversation. But it seems like you guys have been traveling quite a bit lately. Where are you at right now?
I'm in Arizona right now, but I'm getting ready to go to San Francisco, and then after that, LA, and then I might be going to a founder's house out in Dubai in November. But my team is wrapping up Token 49 or Token 2049 in Singapore, and they previous to that they were in Korea. So we're out talking Litecoin, LitVM, and all of that.
Gotcha. So I've seen a lot of the marketing for LitVM, and I think you guys do a good job there. How long has this idea been around for this type of project that you're working on, like basically bringing smart contracts or layer 2s to proof of work chains? Was LitVM an original idea, or did that come after those Bitcoin OS guys started working on the same sort of thing for BTC?
So it's an original idea. A couple years ago, as the onset of ordinals and then runes started popping up on Bitcoin, and a lot of people were interested in, building on top of Bitcoin. Just realized that there wasn't anything happening similar for Litecoin. And that's about the time I started doing a lot more market research and created a deck for Litecoin. Started talking to other people about the idea, and I wasn't originally going to work with our full stack venture studio, LDA. I was going to take this and kind of just build it on my own. But as things shaped up, I decided to work with LDA, and then during that process of talking to different developers, I met up with Bitcoin OS, and we kind of put our ideas together. So Bitcoin OS is building something entirely separate, but we're using part of their stack for LitVM. We're just modifying it, and so there's a bunch of innovative things that LitVM is building alongside the technology that Bitcoin OS has been working on for their own project.
I see. Um, that's cool. So it was basically you kind of on your own solo at first, having these ideas to build on Litecoin. How did you, like, I guess backing up a little bit, because I know, or at least I've seen some of your previous ideas, like you caught the Matic run of last cycle and it talked about Cardano as well, prior to the run-ups, which was pretty impressive to catch like some of the best performing altcoins of last cycle. At what point in your mind did you switch over to the proof of work side of things, and how do you find Litecoin or see it?
Sure. So Litecoin is actually my first coin that I ever purchased, and this is back in 2016. And this was when I was, still a noob, and I just thought I couldn't afford, full Bitcoin, which was only like, I think back then Bitcoin was, so many, like 600, $700, something like that. And Litecoin was, only like $7 or something. And I just wanted to buy more coins. So I ended up buying Litecoin. But so I've owned Litecoin for a long time. And over kind of getting into blockchain more, experimenting, kind of dove in during 2017, also dove into like privacy stuff. I'm not sure if you remember John McAfee and the whole
Mm-hmm.
uh, privacy narrative. I was like big into Verge.
Oh, I
And
see.
then after that, stumbled across smart contracts with Cardano, and then Matic Network, which is Polygon previously. And um, and as we as the Bitcoin side of things started shaping up further with like runes and ordinals, that's when it kind of it gave me the idea like there's a massive need for smart contracts and things built on Litecoin. That's when I first started diving back into Litecoin again.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's interesting. I remember all of those, the John McAfee stuff and Verge rallying like crazy towards the end of 2017. And I think we probably got involved in crypto around the same time, like right as Bitcoin started rallying in 2016 back towards the all-time high of $1,000. So that's cool. So the natural progression, you had a little bit of Litecoin, got involved in privacy, migrated to smart contracts, and then um, kind of decided that these proof of work cryptocurrencies, these more hard money assets, like potentially permissionless, censorship resistant, needed similar functionality that things like ETH had. Um, what kind of like specific ideas? You said you saw ordinals and runes potentially taking off. Did you have anything specific in mind that you wanted to see people build on top of Litecoin? Like as far as like direction for how you were designing a LitVM, were there specific like apps or use cases that you had in mind, or did you want to build something that was general purpose that people could experiment on and come up with whatever ideas they'd find?
Definitely. So I've always been a big proponent of privacy technologies, um, DeFi in general, but for Litecoin, I think from the beginning, I just wanted to see, DeFi on top of it. And I was thinking of building things, applications or solutions that would kind of create advanced payments type solutions for Litecoin, but using fully decentralized, trustless technology. And over the years, it's evolved to, I'd say, probably four main focuses that I want to see on LitVM, which is basically on top of Litecoin. So that would be advanced payments, DeFi, because there's so much you can do with Litecoin and with all the digital asset treasuries that are coming online. Shout out to Luxfolio, the first Litecoin treasury company, and all these institutions that are uh, going to launch some types of ETPs. There's the ETFs, but there's also indexes. These institutions, DATs, all are going to look for yield and different trustless strategies that they can build. So they need something like LitVM. But you know, advanced payments DeFi was kind of the core of it. But as time went on, I started thinking I'd love to see real world assets also built on top of Litecoin, and Litecoin enabling these assets. So the type of freedom technologies that I'm really interested in seeing built on Lithium would be, uh, I like to call it consumer driven real world assets. So if you look at the real world asset space currently on Web3, it's mainly like institutional vaults or kind of really boring stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not too many people, unless you're like a 100x user in Web3, that really gets involved with this stuff. And the real world asset space, if you talk to investors and wells and builders, you realize that everyone believes that real world assets and blockchain is going to take off, but they don't know what's going to kick it off. And what I believe is going to kick it off is what I call consumer driven real world assets. And that's just the average and everyday type real world assets that can be tokenized using blockchain and traditional business models that people already have in IRL, but deployed on blockchain so that it's decentralized, trustless, and you can prove ownership for these real world assets. Specifically, I'm talking about bringing music online or uh, different types of indexes, with silver and Litecoin combined, fractionalized real estate, uh, collectibles, things that everyone already participates on in and bringing it on chain and into these solutions or applications that are really easy to use that we all kind of already experience, using DeFi on Ethereum and things like that. So that's the idea of having the EVM nature for LitVM to bring all these real world asset ideas and opportunities, to LitVM. And then lastly, I would say culture. So just extending all the great work. So there's already Litecoin ordinals and uh, runes, but it would be great to have like traditional Web3 interfaces that most people have played around with in the
Mm-hmm.
EVM side of things for all of these assets.
I see. Gotcha. Yeah, that would be super. It would be crazy to see that same sort of network effect and cultural significance that assets built on top of Ethereum had migrate to proof of work chains. How do you see that happening? It seems like it needs enough momentum and enough of the one enough demand, momentum, and you have to have a reason probably for people to switch from what they're used to. Do you see any
Mhm.
competitive advantages? I know all of us would say that you'd want to settle in like hard money at the end of the day, like something that is permissionless, unlike some of these proof of stake chains that could potentially be censored in the future. Um, how do you see that playing out? What do you think is going to like drive people from uh, what they're already used to on the EVM side of things to uh, it taking off and competing against Ethereum on the Litecoin side? I,
Sure. I think that the value proposition for getting into hard money is so powerful and will only become more apparent as a strategy that people across Web3 will only, especially over time, uh, from here on out, it'll only grow. It'll become more apparent. So basically, getting the Web3 and blockchain people to move over, I think is going to be easy. If you look at where a lot of the money is flowing right now, it is mainly moving to blue chip assets. Um, if a lot of people have kind of complained how this altcoin season has not been as exciting as the others, and all the small caps, it's been mainly kind of like these short interest cycles or like
mm-hmm.
little pump and dump things. And the only thing that really took off was probably the casino. And even Solana has died down significantly over the past 6 months. But where a lot of money is going is to blue chip assets. So I think that's going to continue, especially with all the ETFs and the indexes and the money that's flowing in. If I could point out my report, for instance, a lot of the retail money is here, especially like the people that are kind of more inclined to utilize Web3. And
Mm-hmm.
there's still a lot of room to grow, but a lot of these guys have been here for the last couple cycles. And now it's that institutional money that's going to take us to the next level, or treasuries, maybe governments, and these guys are going to look at blue chip assets. They're not going to play with some token that's on the 100th or 500th page on CoinMarketCap.
For
And
sure.
so as that continues to go on, people are going to get more bored of these smaller cap assets, and they're going to see that. I think because price is so important, that as everything grows on these blue chip assets, specifically Litecoin, this will be a really easy. Uh, it will be easy to kind of get people to use Litecoin
Oh, for
or
sure.
LitVM. But I like to take it a step further and just tell you that I see that I really believe from here what the world needs is a platform that actually goes to um, IRL, and instead of marketing directly to just other people that are in the space and trying to steal users from Avalanche or
Mm-hmm.
Ethereum, we need to go out and actually finish shipping all of the UI and the complexities, chain abstraction, and all this stuff that we've been talking about, and go to um, businesses that are already existing out there that and bring it on chain. And
Mm-hmm.
essentially, this is all going to happen. Real world assets, Larry Fink, all these guys, they want to come on chain, but they need industry players that really understand how to build an ecosystem to connect them to the developers and bring their ideas on chain. And I think that LitVM, because of our experience, is going to excel at bringing all these businesses on chain. And so that's something like I don't want to. Well, I guess what I'm getting at is like I do want to win over more people in blockchain
Yeah.
to Litecoin and LitVM, but I actually want to like start connecting with colleges and universities and real world businesses, and I'm talking to hundreds of people in all of these across all these categories about doing this already.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. I've actually thought about it the same way as like the most people involved in the crypto space are in the super degen like speculative world where they're just trying to gamble. Um, and for that reason, like since 2017, that's really what's grown is just the desire to speculate. and a lot of the promises from like even the time of ICOs through to today and stuff built on ETH and Solana, it's all just been more gambling and not like end consumer demand, right? Like I've always thought about it from the perspective that, why would someone adopt this over all their other options? And I think certain macro conditions will eventually manifest that will get people to uh, learn about this stuff. But I would agree with you that, yeah, we need to attract people from outside uh, the current participants in crypto. And I think Litecoin is uniquely positioned here, given its network effect lead over most all other proof of work chains, to be uh, like the next um, thing that people hear about from the crypto space, or people from outside that haven't had much crypto experience to actually, get some benefit.
Well,
Uh,
also, I have to shout you out because you actually see this as well, and I have a lot of respect for that because, for instance, with your live streams, you're trying to reach people outside of crypto. I've
yeah,
noticed that with like the music that you're creating and
yeah.
the graphics and so yeah, I'm fully aligned with you. Real quick question: is this recorded?
It'll be posted after, yeah. Once I end the
Awesome.
stream, it'll be recorded. If that's okay, I can post it if you don't want it.
I'd love to, and I
Oh,
can
okay.
chop it up. I'll
Yeah.
get the team to chop it up and share it, and we'll tag you and everything.
Oh, that'd be sweet. Yeah, I had the same perspective. Like, I'm glad you brought that up. Um, and I knew people would dismiss it at first. I got a lot of comments that are like, "What are you doing? I just want, technical analysis videos." But Litecoin has lacked a cultural story. Um, and it has lacked like broader cultural resonance. And I know, yeah, I have this technical, fundamental, long-term thesis about Litecoin being the second Bitcoin chain monetized, and that can resonate with a few individuals that might see it the same way as me. I do think this is the way Bitcoin scales naturally horizontally, and that's aligned with my long-term future of this not being like a super centralized merger with the existing financial system, but kind of a new decentralized separate system where all these Bitcoin chains interact, and you can atomically swap between them to arb security for cost. But I really wanted to at least try to think about what would happen in if attention and interest came back into crypto, and what would resonate more broadly outside of this tiny. It's really niche. Like Litecoin
Mhm.
search interest is lower than it was in 2013, so our community is niche, and I was trying to think, what would resonate with just the average person that doesn't know anything about crypto. They might hear a song and like it, right? I try to create some EDM stuff that's, kind of culturally relevant today, um, as like hooks into potentially listening to what I had to say on the fundamental side. But things like that, I think, are important, and in the context of attention shifting and potentially seeing Litecoin break out against some of these other altcoins, if you can hook people's attention with a song or memes, they're more likely to look deeper, because
Mhm.
that's what Litecoin has really lacked. It's been overshadowed because of all the competition in this space. Everyone's competing for speculative money, and they're all trying to convince people why they should buy the token that they own. Um, and I think Litecoin kind of the community needs to stand up and tell its own story. So yeah, that's what I've been trying to do, and you're trying to do that in a different way. But it's cool to see the alignment there. Um, so yeah, we all have our unique traits, I guess, and strengths.
Yes,
Um,
together, like I always say. You know,
Yeah,
we're all in this together, and that's I love the Litecoin community. I mean, you know, I look at you, everything you're doing, you know, flipping finance. He's doing
yep.
these live streams where he's tapping into, you know, all these different like altcoin communities. And he argued with like, or was debating XRP bros. And
Hmm.
then, you know, you have 84 million. And, you know, there's just so many different avenues that we're all kind of hitting. And I think that's exciting. I just hope that we all continue to like grow each other, build each other, and in time, you know, we'll have 4, 5, 6 Litecoin shows, kind of probably hitting different angles, and we'll be, you know, much larger and much powerful force
Oh,
together.
for sure. Yeah, like it is crazy because despite how small the community is, we have some pretty top notch or professional. Like Kyle's podcast is pretty professional. It's well done. He prepares well. It's like presented super nicely. It's informative. He's a smart guy. He like runs a one man, really high quality merch shop.
I got
Um,
one of his pieces here. I don't know if people can see it, but I got the Lester shirt on. I just had to
oh hell yeah.
show that.
Nice. I have a few hats and a few shirts. I wore them too much that I kind of like wore them out, but yeah, it's great. If you guys haven't checked out the 84 million shop, definitely do that. But it's sad because we're not like at mainstream cultural awareness at all. But if we can get that, we have a lot of people that can carry um, the torch. And I just hope for if the spotlight hits and when we can deliver a pretty strong message to the public that stumbles across Litecoin for the first time. Um, but it's cool. Like I've been here a long time, like since around the same time you got involved, and had this thesis for the longest. It's almost a decade, and it's cool to see how much better even the Litecoin conferences have gotten, and how many more smart, more like intelligent minds are now around this asset compared to like 2018, 2019, 2020. I've seen like exponential improvement. People like Vlad and Paul Stork as well. So
Mhm.
yeah, relative to the market cap and um, price, I think Litecoin has way stronger intellectual forces uh, behind it compared to a lot of other communities that just kind of talk about price. So it's exciting to see. Sorry, we got distracted a little bit, but appreciate you seeing the alignment there from the way you look at this to me.
Mhm.
I had some questions on um, maybe not the technical setup precisely, but just like maybe basic to have a basic understanding of how this incorporates with the Litecoin blockchain. Maybe we can use references to different Ethereum projects. I'm not super technical, and I don't understand how Bitcoin OS's system works with the chain, but I've always thought of these as kind of like credit layer networks that um, operate on top of the money or the main chain. But how does that interoperability work between LitVM and the Litecoin main chain? Is it similar to runes and ordinals, or is it something completely different?
Sure. So the way I like to explain it is just simply, you know, it's a layer two. So it's built on top of Litecoin. It uses Litecoin, the blockchain, for you know, to roll up to, or essentially the transactions will roll up on Litecoin. But um, there's basically it's a Litecoin layer two, and we're using ZK technology, so cryptography, basically magic,
Hmm.
to prove that people own their Litecoin. And then with this ZK technology, it allows them to use it on the LitVM chain. On LitVM, everyone's Litecoin will be gas for the transactions, and then they'll
Mm.
be able to participate in the EVM or Ethereum virtual machine kind of environment. So basically, just applications, decentralized applications, and but it's all kind of powered by ZK. So these zero knowledge proofs, which is just cryptography that proves that you own an asset and that you're doing something uh,
Gotcha.
on chain.
Okay. And then
So
who is there a separate node like somebody's running these LitVM nodes or the LitVM software or is it every participant that's sending coins to LitVM to do to participate in various apps or applications or smart contracts? Um, are they all running this like LitVM software, or who's maintaining like the LitVM side of things versus just how we understand the Litecoin main chain to work through miners and nodes? How does
sure. So with LitVM being a layer two, we're essentially maintaining the network ourselves, and the goal is to become further decentralized over time, where many different teams will be maintaining the layer two.
Gotcha.
But everyone is participating uh, on the network with their Litecoin, and they're using ZK to interact with the layer two.
Gotcha. Okay. Those are all the technical questions that I had. Do you guys have any people building on LitVM, or have people been sharing ideas that were interested in potentially building something on top of your guys' protocol, or how have those talks been going if you've had them with potential builders, or maybe do they not even know about it yet?
Sure. So we have uh, been speaking with all kinds of different teams uh, that already have uh, decentralized applications that are built that want to migrate to LitVM once it's ready. So LitVM's not completed yet. The final part of the build is still underway. And we've actually brought in another development team to assist us with completing the final build. But those conversations are going really well because there's actually a lot of people that um, want to build on Litecoin and see the opportunity to join the community and also specifically kind of align themselves with what I'm calling the Web3 or the hard money Web3 rebellion, and building freedom technologies and these new opportunities. So there's a ton of different teams that already have applications that will migrate over that we're already in talks with because we've built many things in the space, and
Mm-hmm.
these are our friends and they trust us. They're going to come over. But then we're actually talking to teams that are still developing. Um, LDA, Lunar Digital Assets, which is our full stack blockchain venture studio, is also in the pitch kind of network side of blockchain. And I guess you could say like the angel investing side of things. So there's a ton of teams that are building, and those teams will a lot of these guys will also come to LitVM. And then believe it or not, we're actually talking to institutional parties as well that either want to start building different types of, let's say, Litecoin strategies. Because I can't speak too directly because
Mm-hmm.
you know I don't want to give anything away. But institutional players that are looking to build Litecoin strategies, even some of the digital asset treasuries that are out there, some that people don't know about yet that are gearing up to start stacking Litecoin
Mm-hmm.
in treasuries. These guys are also looking for yield, and so we'll build different types of strategies for them on top of our DeFi layer. Uh, so there's all these conversations are going really well. I would say there is a focus on the four areas that I was talking about
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
before
for
that
sure.
payments, real world assets, culture, and um, DeFi.
Gotcha. That's exciting. Do you guys have an expected launch date, or is it still kind of to be announced depending on when the final build is fully ready?
Definitely. So this is we so for a while we were battle testing the technology that we were trying to modify. We've brought in a new team to help us complete the last part of the Litecoin roll up, and we're about to go to commercials, which is essentially just agreement on like the legalities and uh, aligning incentives and all of that. So once that's established, I can tell everyone, what my plan is to do like a big release of the roadmap and the final stage of the build. But um, we're looking. What I can say is we're probably going to be sometime in Q1 of next year.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and
Nice.
this is we were hoping to be done a lot sooner. The main roadblock that we ran into is the final part of the Litecoin rollup and the trustless like the charms aspect, which is Bitcoin OS's technology, which is all going to be integrated. And making this all seamless and making sure everything works perfectly is like a big part of is a big part of our goal. We want everything as seamless as possible, right out the gate for testnet, and then we can test things.
Gotcha.
But when you're basically building something from scratch, you get when you're talking with development teams, you get like a general idea of how soon the timelines can be, and then sometimes you run into little things that just take longer, and so that's basically what's taking us a little bit longer.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, I'm sure it's impossibly hard. It's new technology, and then it's dealing with money, so it's like yeah, you have to be
Mhm. Yeah.
super sure that you don't have any bugs or mistakes when you launch, because that could just be kill the whole thing, like kill trust in it right out the gate. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, I can imagine how hard that would be, but that's exciting. It's not too far away. Q1, hopefully. And this bull market might extend uh, a little bit longer. So we'll see. What are your thoughts there? I could transition a little bit to the current market environment. What you kind of expected going in, I guess since the bear market in 2022 to how it's progressed. It's been a lot different and a lot more challenging for a lot of people. But yeah, what was your expectation kind of after the bear market of 2021 and into mid 2022 versus what transpired, and where do you see this heading?
Definitely. People might not know, but I called the top of the last bull market. I called the bottom of this last bear market. And 2 years ago, when everything kind of started kicking off from the bottom, I think like Bitcoin was at 14K or around there. I put out this little report on, I forget which crypto site it was, but I just wanted to have it documented and timestamped. And I thought my thesis was that Bitcoin was going to start going up. This was after the everything kind of unwound, after the Terra Luna stuff. And I put out some analysis at that time saying that I think that Bitcoin is going to get to 215K in this bull cycle.
Mhm.
And that was 2 years ago. And I'm still holding, that's still my thoughts. So I believe we still have another leg of this bull market. I'm also the crazy guy that does believe we are in a super cycle.
Mhm.
However, if you look historically, when you're in a super cycle, it's not always obvious because it's a long period of time and people are zoomed into what's happening on the day to day. The market just crashed 30%. And they think we're in a bear market, but if you look at Bitcoin like in 2007 or 2016 to 2017, it had 5 or 6 30% to 40%
Mhm.
pullbacks before it reached its all-time high of 20K. So basically what I'm saying is that I believe we're still headed to 215K. I believe that, especially this was kind of included in my report um, that I just released of my Litecoin uh, thesis and research paper. But in there, it's I highlighted. There's a chart that talks about the institutional money uh, versus the retail money, and a lot of that money still hasn't come into crypto. So I'm not saying that it's all coming in this bull cycle, but I do think that institutions and treasuries have enough data and enough trust that they're going to that a decent amount of capital is still going to flow in, and that will probably happen throughout 2026 to get us to the point where Bitcoin reaches over $200,000, and then we might have a more larger pullback. That's my opinion, of course. But in that time, I think that other blue chip assets are going to do significantly well. Um, the DAT thesis with digital asset treasuries is only going to get larger, and as most of the like if you look at MicroStrategies, for instance, it's done really well. It's kind of paved the way for all these other DATs. And these new strategies that are coming online are looking for a little bit higher beta play, something that
Mhm.
they might be able to get, higher return than because even if you think Bitcoin's going to 215K, that's only almost a 2x from here. So they're looking for something bigger, even though they're probably going to use some type of leverage or whatever in their play or yield or whatever. And so I think a lot of these institutions and DATs are going to pile into trusted assets like Litecoin. And
Mhm.
so Litecoin's I still think it's going much higher. I think Bitcoin's going much higher. And one more point, in 2017, uh, Bitcoin went from like 10K to 20K in 2 months. So
Yep.
basically, it doubled its market cap in 2 months. I'm not saying that's going to happen again, but I do think that we could very quickly double in the course of like a quarter.
Mhm.
Uh, and I think that could happen next year.
Yeah, for sure. I'm kind of in alignment with you as well. It's we've had I've always looked at this as like end stage credit cycle. Like we had crazy performance in the equities market, at least in the US, even in emerging markets too. They've kind of taken off. But we haven't really seen significant rotation into crypto. It hasn't really taken the spotlight like it did in 2021 or 2017. And there's so much money out there that I think, even though it's like the institutional side and they're supposed to be better stewards of capital, I think they're vulnerable to chasing. Uh, and with all these ETFs coming online, uh, in the altcoin space, given how illiquid the supplies are and how long something like Litecoin's been consolidating, uh, I I just know it takes very little money to move this asset relative to
Right.
Bitcoin, and it has the institutional side or ETF side, I think is a lot different demographic than what's currently in crypto right now that's moving prices, right? It's like hedge fund people and degen crypto guys. But I think the demographic uh, of new money that would come in is a lot different, and they'd probably want history of transaction data,
Yes.
growth, right? Like performance over the last 10 years. And that Litecoin would be a lot more compelling. Everyone's trying to make money. Like why? Again, like you said, why would you buy Bitcoin at its most expensive premium relative to its organic monetary growth when you have something like Litecoin that's been growing faster that hasn't rallied yet? And it just takes enough buying or deep value buyers like that to trigger a breakout, and then the narrative should change over time as price always changes the narrative. um, and it can get rather crazy. But yeah, I align with you. Do you think we're gonna have a blow off like we had in 2017? Maybe not in Bitcoin, uh, but in the altcoin space, or at least the blue chip alts.
I think Bitcoin will have a blow off as well,
Mm,
and I also believe blue chips will have you know a blow off top as well. Mainly because I think this cycle is going to have a ton of institutional capital, treasury capital flowing into blue chip assets. And of course, unfortunately, retail always joins at the end of that, or as people, I don't like the term, but dumb money.
mhm.
And so when everything is just getting really heated up and it's not just mainly supported by retail, like you look at 2017 and 2021, institutions were here, but it was still like the very tip of their toe.
Mhm.
Uh, and a lot of the VCs that were here weren't they weren't the most sophisticated VCs, and that's why there was a major unwind.
Mhm.
But now you see this, there's major institutions getting into crypto, and so I think there's a blow up top because you have potentially more governments getting involved with Bitcoin. You have in it's a lot more institution and regulatory clarity to allow these institutions to do more with crypto and blue chip assets. You have the funds, and then of course you have retail kind of going in and out through all of this up until the end, and then probably piling in heaviest at the very end, and that's just going to cause a blow off top
For
again.
sure. Yeah. It's
But oh, if I could say this last thing, bro,
uh
I I have to. I also think that from a macro perspective, things
mhm.
are getting ugly,
Mhm.
and there's only so far that all this can continue. So like, there's also a part of me that thinks 2026 won't only just be like a blow off top for crypto assets because of everything I just said, but from a macro stance, the global economies of the world, the dollar itself, I think there's a lot of um, issues that could come towards somewhere in 2026 that it would cause a panic into assets where people can hedge and assets that have been going up for a long time, but then it's not just a crash because of it's a blow off top, but also because of all the macro stuff that's going on.
Oh yeah. And that's partially why I think these yeah, proof of work assets, privacy tokens or Bitcoin chains like Litecoin can do a lot better. It's almost reminiscent to me of like the late 70s into 1980, like gold silver kind of blow
Mm,
offs, but
yeah.
this time with things that are at least interpreted as hard money in the digital space. Like for the
Hmm.
macro stuff that's going on, I don't think you'd want. This has been my view for a long time, and I didn't think the casino could get so big, but
Mm,
I thought people would start to figure this stuff out and understand, what might actually hold value longer term and position in those things. But it's been crazy to me to watch, meme coins and stuff blow up, given
distraction.
given how crazy the world is getting. But
Hmm.
yeah, there are a lot of interesting similarities there. It's almost like a lot of the time in commodities, you see these blow-offs, but they're not really like FOMO driven. They're more like fear driven
Hmm.
rallies, kind of like you're seeing in gold and silver even today.
Hmm.
People having max uncertainty and not knowing what to do. But if the narrative's there, if like when price breaks out and people see this as what we know it is, then yeah, I don't know why you wouldn't want to have at least some and take possession of it. Uh, So it's silly. It's like if Bitcoin had an ETF to me at $400 because that's like the equivalent market cap and had been going sideways while transactional adoption or monetization had been increasing for 8 years. Right? If it seems sort of unprecedented to me, the setup that we have if we can trigger some catalyst that breaks price out of this boring phase.
I fully
Um,
agree with you. And what you just said with, you know, commodities having these kind of blow off tops where, is a little bit fear driven. Um, I think it's going to happen for Bitcoin and Litecoin as well, especially in 2026, uh, for a lot of reasons.
yeah. Do you have a time frame that you're expecting or for this to all play out or um I know time is is so hard. Uh
Mhm.
but do you have something roughly like in your mind for when this market cycle likely peaks? I know obviously you would want to launch your um LitVM project and company while the bull market is still continuing, but do you have a rough expectation for how long this would go into 2026?
I'm not like big on uh, predictions, but like,
Mhm.
you know, I'll do my I'll do my analysis, and
Mhm.
then I only change if like the fundamental idea behind the analysis changes. I haven't
Mhm.
seen anything really change from like my analysis that I did a couple years ago at the
Yep.
bottom of the market. So what I'm looking for is to get above 200K for Bitcoin. But then I'm always looking for those telltale signs of when the market is over leveraged, it's too frothy,
Mhm.
uh, there's an exorbitant amount of people involved. There's the old uh, term that they say, oh, there's the shoe shine boys involved, that kind of thing. Um, you look for like when everyone is kind of like fully in it and saying it's only going higher from there, and so
Yep.
there's like kind of key things that I'm looking for, but I definitely can say right now we're not there.
Yeah,
Not only
for
because
sure.
Bitcoin isn't at 200K, but some of the points you've brought up, and we haven't had a significant uh, altcoin uh, rally or season yet. We haven't had, even though like Solana got frothy, that was
Mhm.
like a
It was
individual
isolated.
team.
Yeah.
It was. So there's just a lot of things that I haven't seen play out, and I think that's where we're headed, in 2026. I don't have an exact time frame, but but in 2026, but I think when all those things align, that's when I'll start, thinking it might be time to um, look at my strategy.
Yeah, for sure. That's kind of how I see it as well. It's really hard to predict timing, but like I saw, and it's harder this cycle too, but I saw even in Litecoin, and I commented on some of Lighthouse's or Aldo's posts thinking this might be the top, because we saw massive on-chain volume for Litecoin, and most of that went to exchanges. Unfortunately, now it's way harder to track this
Mm.
on-chain activity. Um, but yeah, it's taken way longer than I thought it would, but we've still not gotten to any broad sense of euphoria. And I think we'll
Definitely.
still get there. What convinces you that it will come? Because a lot of people right now think, and I think that's perfect for sentiment because almost everyone is believing in alt season or relative outperformance in alts at some point, and it's been so long that I think the belief has almost died. So to me, that tells me we're pretty close. But um, what's your what gives you conviction or confidence that it's coming, even though it's taken a lot longer than past cycles?
Sure. So there's that phrase that people talk about where they say when people say this time's different, they're
Mhm.
usually wrong. I think this uh, cycle is going to be like every other cycle
Mhm.
in the sense that it's going to rhyme. It never plays out the same exact way. So, maybe a cycle is longer, or maybe it's shorter. The things in the different mini cycles within the larger cycle are different. The narratives are different, but like the general things that you see in each cycle, usually play out.
Mhm.
And and so because we haven't seen a lot of the things that you see in every cycle, the boom, the bust, um, I think that's still coming. And then there's just a ton of other things. Like I don't just take a couple indicators or a
Mhm.
couple pieces of information and paint the broad like a big picture for me. Like I'm looking at all kinds of indicators, macro, fundamental data, and I'm putting it all together to get this big picture. And some of the things I'm looking at that still suggest that we have a lot more room to grow is some of the stuff that I hear like in well chats and I've been in some meetings where people are talking about governments positioning for certain things. And uh, you also there's like old charts that have been around for hundreds of years that have predicted a lot of these like macro cycles. And
Mhm.
there's this one in particular, I can't think of the name of it, but it's an old it's like a farmer's chart, but essentially it's predicted the cycles, the cycles correct for like all of all global cycles correct for hundreds of years now. And it says that the downtime or the bear market is coming in 2026. So even like these kind of more niche things
Mhm.
I'm taking into play, when I look at everything and I look at the big picture and put it all together, it just says that we still are going to see, um, an altcoin season. I do think the altcoin season is going to be very different than the other
Yep.
ones we've had. Like, I don't think the whole market, all 30,000 tokens and coins, all digital assets are all just going to rocket to the moon. I do believe that we have matured to a certain point to where blue chip assets, specifically outside of like Bitcoin, are going to, that's where the real altcoin season is going to be. And then I think that projects that are building for institutions or uh, treasuries, governments, these things can do really well, or like projects that are tied to blue chip assets. But I think a lot of projects are going to be left in the dust. So I'm not saying that everything is going to blow up, but we still haven't had a significant general altcoin season.
Yeah.
So it's still coming, in my opinion.
Yeah. Sorry to ask you so many questions, but you've been right. Uh, last cycle, and you're right. I feel like I don't know how you found the best performing assets and then found Litecoin, but man, if you catch this, what I've been positioning for a long time, um, and it plays out, that would be incredible to call the bottom, ride the manic wave, or
You,
Polygon.
you know what I look for, bro,
Huh.
is like I'm looking for, I look at everything holistically. Like,
Yep.
where is blockchain today and where does it need to go, and how likely is certain types of solutions or projects going to be included in the next phase.
Mhm.
And and so the way I found Matic Network, for instance, is that there was a massive IDO phase, or
Yeah, I
initial
remember
DEX
that.
offering, ICO, all this stuff happening on Ethereum. But Ethereum couldn't scale. So,
Yep.
it back then it wasn't obvious, but for me, I thought it was obvious because you needed something that could scale Ethereum. So it was the layer twos. So I looked into layer twos, and I did my due diligence across the wave of different ones that were out at that time. and I found Matic Network, the development team, and I just could see that they were the best positioned, so that I made a big bet on Matic Network. As I look forward from here, I see that much of interoperability, the layer two kind of technology, ZK technology, all this stuff has matured. The next step is all the best tech that has been maturing over the last couple cycles coming together, and that's what LitVM is. But
Mm-hmm.
so I think when you combine some of the best tech, Litecoin being one, in my opinion, the best blue chip asset out there with the most opportunity, and then you combine these other technologies and you build it on top of Litecoin. I think LitVM Litecoin is going to do exceptionally well. In addition to all the stuff I've said, that's going to
Yeah,
set Litecoin up for this major rally.
for sure. Yeah, there's a lot of that's exciting. I'm glad you're working on this thing because if you didn't build it, nobody probably would. Um, but yeah, I've had the same philosophy is like looking at this holistically, and uh, what I what I think is interesting is the same thing that happened to ETH because there's a lot of settlement demand and you knew it couldn't scale. Like that was not common knowledge, and it's not common knowledge today on Bitcoin. I've known forever that, despite whatever, like Lightning Network hype there was, or various other types of institutional scaling credit layers on Bitcoin, like I've always known that this Bitcoin security model doesn't scale, and what the most opportunity is in the second Bitcoin chain or chain that has the highest network effects that's been acting as a Bitcoin substitute. Just like in the 2021 cycle for competition against ETH, whatever was in the best position to capture that demand when ETH fees, went to the moon, those things rallied 100x.
Yeah.
So it's almost like the same thing happening, but more on the proof of work side if
Mm-hmm.
the monetary demand happens. And if you enable that through LitVM and various credit layers and like, demand for those things and those apps on proof of work chains will drive the underlying chains demand for Blockspace. And yeah, it will be crazy because even ETH to me, like what you can get like 1.5 million transactions through the chain a day or something, and Bitcoin's at 400K. So if any of that stuff is successful, Bitcoin OS or whatever, and generates the same type of buzz or experimentation that these EVM things drove, uh, you know, it would fees would rally dramatically and substitution would happen likely to Litecoin. It would the same exact thing would happen
Mm-hmm.
that happened last cycle. So I don't know why can't people see that? Like you were able to see it happen on ETH's side when ETH was like 90% dominant in the proof of stake side of the market. Why could nobody else see it, and why do you think they can't see it with proof of work side of things if it's been demonstrated that it is inevitable with enough demand? It it seems weird to
I,
me.
it does seem weird, but everyone has their biases, and I believe that the reason people can't see things and then they all notice once it's just so apparent is that they're focused on whatever they're into, and like if I believe Litecoin is the next major opportunity, the next blue chip asset to really take off. But if you're a Web3 gamer, it's just not what you're into. You're not
True.
looking at that, or you're you're not you're not subscribed to AZTEC on X or the 84 Million Show or Earn Gifted. You're like watching some streamer, and that's just your bias. People also hold true to whatever bags they hold as well.
Mhm.
So if they're an XRP bro and they believe Brad Garlinghouse is going to flip the switch and it's going to 589, they're just like Litecoin is a copy of Bitcoin. They're saying stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So they're kind of like in their camps, and I think that's
Mm-hmm.
what blinds people. They're just kind of spewing the rhetoric from whatever camp. They're not doing enough due diligence. It really takes someone that you either get lucky
Yeah.
or have to look at things very critically and ask yourself, like, what if I'm wrong? Like, and look at everything holistically and see what the next
Mm-hmm.
step is going to be.
Yeah, it's a rare trait, I would agree. To argue against yourself, because once someone's convinced of something, especially if they're rewarded financially for that, even if it's just a bunch of people buying into hype, they feel like their narrative or conviction is justified, even if it's wrong. It's really hard, um, especially when financial interests uh, are there to see the truth. But yeah,
Definitely.
good point. I It seems like most people now in this community are um pretty strong-minded and open. That's what I've liked about the Litecoin community is there's not a lot of hate towards other projects. It's just more of a objective analysis. Like, hey, you can speculate on this other coin if you want. I'm not saying this is better. I'm just saying this is the way that I think it's going to, play out, and we'll see what the market eventually decides. Uh,
I see that too.
yeah.
I love the Litecoin community. It's a great group of global community of individuals that love hard money, love freedom, decentralization, and also a big difference between Litecoin and Bitcoin community is that Litecoiners are open to innovation,
Mhm.
and I get why some Bitcoiners aren't. The ossifists kind of
Yep.
minded people. I totally understand. But I I'm not really. I've always been into progress, innovation, and that's another thing I really love about the Litecoiners. They're a very innovative group of individuals, open-minded, like you said.
Yeah, for sure. Um, so I don't know how long it's been, and I don't know how long you have, but I have a few other questions for you if you have time. Uh,
Sure, I probably have to go shortly,
okay, yeah,
but
maybe
I
just
got it.
5 minutes or 10 minutes.
That works.
Okay, cool. We'll appreciate it. So one question I had is how it's hard. I know it's hard in marketing, but how can the Litecoin community help LitVM? Because I think if LitVM succeeds to the extent that you think is possible, then it's obviously going to help all of the Litecoin community or people that hold on to Litecoin. Um, and it's very hard, I think, for projects like yours to establish those initial network effects. But once those are established, then it can really take off. Like, what can we do to help you guys succeed when you do launch?
Definitely. So there's something that we're cooking alongside some other chief architects for the Litecoin community. I can't uh, publicly talk about it, but it's really big. It's going to unite the light. It's going to unite all the Litecoiners, and when with everyone involved in this, it's going to help us mobilize and organize. And I think what more importantly than just like supporting LitVM, we all have to support each other. Like I want to see the other technologies that are being built for Litecoin succeed just as much as I want to see LitVM succeed. And the reason why is because a rising ship lifts, or a rising tide lifts all ships. And so, how can people specifically help us? Um, it's really just participating in the community, building on top of LitVM whenever it's ready. Um, but I think together it's also help everyone in the Litecoin community, help everyone succeed, continue to build for each other, and together we're going to grow and be, the biggest asset out there, the biggest community. So that's my thoughts on all of us succeeding together.
Sweet. Yeah, I would agree. And I look at that even holistically with the other proof of work chains. I think they eventually will all help each other reach a larger total addressable market, right? To really compete. If it's going to compete with state money, I think the more options that people have, whether it's sacrificing, throughput for better privacy, or having multiple Bitcoin chains with different security levels where they can decide what they're really willing to pay for, how much security they need, helps every other chain. But but yeah, I agree with you. I think that um, once these projects are launched, uh, that the more participation we have is going to drive the more participation we have with each sort of individual Litecoin project will help all of the others like multiply. So I do agree. How once this is launched, like, um, do they need like LitVM tokens? I'm sure that you'll have to send your Litecoin to an address, and then it's locked up in LitVM, and you have this layer 2 wrapped Litecoin. How would people, once it is launched, get onto LitVM, or is that still something that has to be worked out?
So we're using the charms technology. The best way to understand that from like a very technical standpoint would be to read the charms white
Mm.
paper. But in general, the way that everyone's going to participate is they're not actually like physically sending their Litecoin somewhere. They're just proving with the charms technology or the ZK technology that
Mm.
that uh, that they own it and that they can participate in LitVM, on
Mhm.
LitVM. So basically, I would say that that's probably a good read. It's actually a really long paper that Bitcoin OS wrote. But yeah, does that answer the
Yeah,
question?
I guess so. Sorry, it was kind of an all over the place question. I was just wondering if I wanted to like experiment when it launches, what I would need to do to access these applications if they're built. But I can read later once.
Oh, well, I mean, basically from that standpoint, you'll you'll interact with LitVM just how you interact with um, Ethereum or
Mhm.
Solana. Essentially you'll have a wallet, and that wallet will help you interact with the smart contracts on the chain. But one of my goals, which I'm trying to figure out, this I'm not 100% certain on if I'll be able to get it out at the same time as launching, testnet and mainnet. But one of my ideas is also to create like a LitVM easy mode where in the wallet you're essentially in you have your Litecoin and you're able to interact with uh, uh, specific applications that have kind of gone through a process that are trusted. And so, for instance, it would make it real easy where they can participate in DeFi and real world assets all in the same place in a wallet. But I call that kind of like Lithium easy mode. But in general, how will people participate? Do the same way that they interact with all other chains,
Okay.
either from desktop or mobile.
Okay, sweet. So it should be relatively easy. And yeah, the easier if that experience really is as simple as like interacting with Solana,
Mm.
then I can see it doing really well, especially if price is moving. So that's cool. That's exciting. I'm excited to see it, AZTEC. Excited to see all the work that you guys have done be realized. Um, I've never been super excited like I'm myself about credit layers, but um, this might change my mind. I guess we'll see. I'm
I hope
excited.
we do.
Cool. Well, thanks for the time. And sorry, I know this is more casual, but I really appreciate you coming on here and uh, interacting with this side of the Litecoin community. Um, so thanks so much.
Hey, thank you for letting me join you, and this was a really fun conversation, brother. I'd love to come on in the future and or hang out and talk technical analysis or whatever. You know, I'm a big macro guy, technical analysis guy. So, um, you know, if you got a show where you want to get a couple of us on or something,
Yeah, that'd
I'm
be
down for
cool.
that as well.
Let's do
I
it
like to hang out.
when when Litecoin is moving, when we get a bigger audience. I think that'd be really cool to have multiple perspectives of people who, like yourself, has caught a lot of these moves and been pretty accurate. All give their opinions. So that's what I
Sounds
plan to
fun.
do with this stream. I wanted to be live like 8 hours a day once it starts getting pretty exciting and share the people's opinions that I think have some credibility and weight uh, behind them. So we'll do that.
Awesome.
All right, AZTEC. Well, good luck in um, your next trip. I forgot where you said you were going, but um,
Yep, San
San
Francisco.
Francisco.
If anyone's
Okay.
out in San Francisco, DM me. I'll going to San Francisco Tech Week, then LA Tech Week, and I'd be happy to hang out with Litecoiners or anyone out there from the blockchain world.
Sweet. Well, cool. Any San Francisco peeps? I know there is one, but I don't know if he's around. Reach out to AZTEC. Sweet, man. Well, yeah, good luck with all the marketing and the finishing of this build. We're excited to see it. It's like the first thing that is actually professional and built on Litecoin with some real like intellectual rigor and research development. Literally the first professional project I think Litecoin's had. It's gone through a lot of scams and people that hype things up but never delivered. So this is
Mm.
promising.
I'm really excited to ship it, and
Yeah.
thank you for the well wishes. We're gonna make it
All right.
happen, and soon we'll get more of the technical stuff out. I have a big rollout to kind of explain the final build, and I'm really excited to get that out from the marketing side of things as well.
All right, sweet. Well, stay tuned. Follow AZTEC and LitVM on X, and we'll await the roadmap and all the updates.
Awesome.
All right, AZTEC. Have a good night. Thanks so much again. Appreciate you.
Thank you, bro.
All right. See ya.
Later.
All right, guys. That's cool. AZTEC is It's crazy that he's been seeing this market. He's been like one step ahead or multiple steps ahead. Been able to see, the biggest winners, and then I think he's gonna be right again here about Litecoin. It's crazy to catch. Most people, like what I see most people do is get lucky, and I met a lot of them in Puerto Rico. They get lucky one cycle and double down. Very few like change their opinions. They're either like a Bitcoin maxi forever, or some defunct altcoin that randomly pumps 1000x. They become super ingrained in just repeating that and end up losing their money. But AZTEC has switched based on being honest with himself and doing his own analysis. So that's kind of crazy. Yeah, he's the real deal. Well, thanks for watching and hanging out. I'll publish this after I finish this live stream. I admit I was not that prepared for this interview. Wanted it to be more of like a casual conversation, but hopefully that was informative, and I asked the questions people wanted to hear the answers to. We spent a lot of time on talking about market cycles and not as much time as I wanted to talk about LitVM, but I think that's a lot of what this community wants to hear about. You want to go back and watch it now? Yeah, do it. Do it, Vincent. It's just like the only people that will see this opportunity are people that are willing to, either people that joined in 2017 out of price rise, or people that really dug deep to understand the crypto market for themselves. And AZTEC's one of the few that actually, put all the pieces together. I would say it's so similar to me in certain ways. Obviously, I have different opinions because we're different people, but his viewpoint for marketing LitVM and who he's targeting is so similar to the way I've been thinking about the project I was trying to do. And finding Litecoin out of the millions of random tokens, not for any emotional reason, but strictly logical conclusion based on certain assumptions, is hard. It's like there's very few of us out there. Alright, thank you, Eric. I appreciate that. Thanks, Nick. I need to work on my interview skills. For real. But I think it's okay. Alright, Nick, where are we going from here? Retesting the lows. For now. Bitcoin's still sitting above 120k. Oh yeah, thanks AZTEC, appreciate it. You think we're going to back to what? What trend line? You wanted 115. I don't know, maybe the support holds though. If you want to come on here, Nick, for like 20 minutes, that'd be cool. Give us your updated short-term idea. Maybe you already posted it. Yeah, Nick, I'll send you the link if you're down to join. Otherwise, I'll probably be done streaming for tonight. Let's go, AZTEC. Let's send it. It would be really crazy if I think if LitVM works and these credit layer networks. Well, one, I've always thought, and I've never been that bullish on credit layer networks. Manifesting into much until much later is, I've always thought the market needs, the money needs to penetrate the marketplace first, and then you need to build productive credit layers. Like, I think eventually how this plays out longer term, like we're still in the speculative phase, and I think those will end maybe after this cycle. There needs to be some like decentralized credit system where you can have like a credit score, establish some trust based on on-chain payment history or some sort of identification that you're reliable, whether it's social credibility or past payment history, to lend money to people that will go actually build stuff that can, you know, actually generate yield and return money to the creditors or lenders. But I think the money first has to establish enough of a market underneath it. There has to be some economy denominated in the money, and then naturally you'd get the demand to borrow that money to go build, you know, further production within that local natively digital economy. Well, we'll see. I mean, I don't know everything. Daughter's sick? Okay. Send a chart. Nice. Because I've always thought of money, like money is, over the long term, its value is dependent upon or proportional to the goods demanded in the money. Right? It's like if the dollar originally, a long time ago, established network effects because the US had the best products and services that the rest of the world wanted to buy, so they needed dollars to consume the products, and over time dollar established network effects and became the dominant money, and it sort of abused that privilege because of the network effects it had to export inflation. But in order for crypto not to have massive bear markets, it needs to establish its own circular economy underneath. It's going to be tough, but I think it will transition eventually after this bull market cycle completes and the consequential bear market that follows. We'll finally get the macro catalyst of craziness in the world, high inflation, maybe inflation rotating out of financial assets into real goods and services, higher degrees of capital controls, especially in Western countries, that forces some people to seek alternatives. And if they can do it in a private, anonymous way, in a decentralized environment, then naturally that money will start growing organically. And from there, I think you build credit layers that aren't tied to the centralized institutions that will sort of falter the existing financial institutions. One of the best streams, thanks. Yeah, we just need to, what we need to do for a lot of these Litecoin channels is establish network effects, and then when the spotlight finally shifts, which is what I've been waiting for, I think you have to appeal emotionally to people that don't understand Litecoin. Hook them and then explain to them the, you know, the fundamental story. Need something that grabs their attention, whether it's price going up and in combination with hype music. Regardless of what it is, I think if you can combine that with convincing long-term fundamental analysis, in my view, I've explained a million times, that Bitcoin doesn't scale. It scales, it does, but no single chain will. You can show them 8 years of price or network data that supports that idea. Then eventually it'll change the psychological expectation around Bitcoin itself. Right? The future value type analysis that people like Michael Saylor are doing are making assumptions that I think will break. Right? If you assume that the existing financial system and governments are just going to allow Bitcoin forever, then you're going to go off a completely different path. And come to really different conclusions. But if you take the other view that this needs to remain decentralized and is more of a tool of resistance against the very institutions that people say are going to adopt Bitcoin, you'll get to the same conclusion that I got to, that these networks, Bitcoin chains, or at least the second most dominant and the primary dominant chain, will converge in network activity and then price. Instead of thinking Bitcoin to 13 million or whatever, you'll start to see that maybe the total addressable market for all Bitcoin chains is similar to that, but that BTC will have to compete from an end consumer demand standpoint with all the other things that are available. And then if you understand how monetary network effects typically work, the safest bet will be to speculate on the chain that has capacity for growth and has a huge lead over everything else. And then what happened with Bitcoin early on until today, just repeat with Litecoin. You want me to play this? Alright, I saw you tweet this. I didn't see it. Let me turn down the music.
Joel, and you believe in Bitcoin, you buy the Bitcoin, you cold storage the Bitcoin, and you let all the companies power up the network. If the companies didn't show up and the network was all individuals, Bitcoin would be trading $5,000 a coin.
No.
And here's the problem. It wouldn't just trade at $5,000 a coin, but the corporations, if they were to choose a different network to power up, you know, if all the companies went to Bitcoin Cash or Litecoin or Ethereum or something else, Bitcoin would max out at 5,000 a coin and it would dwindle down to nothing because the companies would latch on to the next network, and then they would go to every government in China and Russia and Europe and South America and Africa and the US, and all the laws would be modified to benefit the other network and eventually squeeze the Bitcoin network out. So this is a protocol, and you could even say there's a protocol war, and it's a war to determine the future of money. And the war for the future of money is going to be fought and won with money.
I don't know what that means. Governments will fight wars with money the same way they fight wars with other governments or their own citizens with the tools they know how to use, which is physical violence and threats of physical violence. That's the source of power. But I think it's funny to take the position that you're just focused on speculative network effects. Ultimately, it's the individuals resisting tax and censorship that will drive demand and price for these chains. And I don't understand what he means by powering up the Bitcoin chain. You're not powering up anything. You're just inducing speculation and leverage short term that can pump up the price. But all of that stuff is temporary. And to me, it doesn't matter how high you pump up the price of a token or something, regardless of what it is, whether it's BTC or some other chain. It doesn't make it more valuable. You have to understand what the value proposition actually is and who's going to demand that. And yeah, you will have competition. He's taking, I think, the totally wrong view. That's like trying to use politics to influence governments to say, buy this coin. That doesn't... Even if you convince all the governments in the world to buy Bitcoin, it could pump up the price short term, but if nobody actually wants it, the people who produce all the stuff in your economy, the most valuable people, if they just reject it, and they have good enough privacy to do that, it's still worth nothing. Right? Eventually, all of that speculation will move out. That's what I think people aren't understanding, is who's going to demand this and why. And I think the highest value natively digital economy participants will maximize the returns to themselves. They don't want to pay taxes. They want to maximize their earnings, and if privacy is good enough, they're not going to adopt your Bitcoin chain just because the government owns it. But that's a weird perspective to have. That it's like whoever the government you're basically saying whatever the government chooses, whatever the institutions choose will be the winner. Like whatever they buy, but that's a weird assumption to make, to me. I guess it worked in the past with gold, and they convinced the population of this gold-backed currency fallacy, and maybe he's betting that they can do it again with Bitcoin. I don't think so. I think people will figure it out. To me, Bitcoin lowers the cost of resistance So it can actually succeed potentially where gold failed. Hey Charlie. My cat named Charlie is meowing at me. It's insane. This whole market is pretty insane. It's like the most backwards market ever. It's putting speculation first. It's been trained to think whatever's most popular will succeed. What's most popular today? But I feel like most of the stuff that's politically popular ends up being wrong. And to me, the crypto markets are a lot like politics. What's popular with speculators is not what's usually popular with end users. But he basically explained his bet in this clip.
Joel, and you believe in Bitcoin, you buy the Bitcoin, you cold storage.
But he is right, like I think he underestimates the power of sovereign individuals and how much leverage they'll have with the
Bitcoin,
AI
and you let all the
tools.
companies power up the network.
But what does he mean, power up the network? You're not powering anything up by just pumping up the price.
The companies didn't show
You're
up
actually making it
and the
weaker.
network was all individuals, Bitcoin would be trading $5,000 a coin.
No.
And here's the problem. It wouldn't just trade at $5,000 a coin, but the corporations, if they were to choose a different network to power up, you know, if all the companies went to Bitcoin Cash or
Yeah, it's weird. You have to ask yourself though, like, why would people want to buy your overpriced coin that you pumped up? The only way they would is if they're forced to. I'll be right back, guys. I gotta use the bathroom real quick. Oh, alright guys, I'm back for a little bit. I'm gonna wrap it up here in a sec. Maybe these lows hold. I think we'll just have this sideways chop and eventually move higher. Yeah, whatever Sailor says or whatever anyone says, it won't matter in the long run. It's really, you either take the view that this technology is valuable to individuals and it will be adopted and potentially succeed, or it won't. And if it will succeed on its underlying value proposition, it just doesn't scale, right? You can't trust a government, the same institution that's causing all the problems you originally adopted Bitcoin for, to change course. I think it's so weird that there's this like butting up with the government and saying that this can help the US government, when in reality it's the US government's fault for creating all of this inflation, creating all these problems. That's what's so weird to me, is the state has a certain agenda. They have all these people that work for it and all these people that depend on transfer payments. And that spending is not going to stop. The only way it stops is if people force it to stop. And that's through resistance. And Bitcoin's technology is built to potentially allow for individuals to resist. You don't know if it'll succeed, but if it does, at the scale a lot of these Bitcoin people imagine, then it's not going to be one chain. The only way one chain idea works is if governments retain power and they try to sell it to their citizens through some Bitcoin-backed reserve currency. We're just going to end up in the same place we were before. I wonder if Sailor saw my videos or something, because he started talking about the war over money. I've never heard him say that previously. Yeah, and it's like, if you're going to rely on a political institution to protect Bitcoin for you, you don't even need Bitcoin. You just vote for better money. But that's not popular, because what's popular is number go up and get rich. It's just funny. Yeah, it's the same reason why people think voting helps. More eyes on me than I realize. Well, if Litecoin actually pumps, I think I'm going to be hated by so many people for just telling the truth of what I think is inevitable and what's been happening. I think Sailor joined in 2020. I mean, maybe he was around paying attention in 2017. But yeah, hopefully they don't try to kill us. People get deranged and crazy when money is involved. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who pumps what chain. If a lot of people decide to pump Litecoin and buy this thesis and it crashes eventually in the bear market, it won't change the long-term price of the asset. It can get very mispriced in the short run, but if this technology succeeds, it's going to end up at the price it deserves over a long enough time frame. It really doesn't matter what governments or Sailor or I say. Governments only want the money that other people want, right? The government just only has what it steals from other people or takes from other people through tax. And so it always will demand or hold, put in reserves the money that the people who are productive are deciding to use. I mean, that's why it stockpiled gold. It wasn't because the government decided gold was the best money. It was because the productive people took gold because it won in the marketplace through monetary competition. And the same will probably be true into the future. The flag in 6 to 12 hours. I guess it depends on what time frame you look at this from. This just looks like a sideways chop to me. It's like took the range highs, the lows, took liquidity in this small range, and is chopping around sideways. Almost like a head and shoulders top on the short-term time frame. I think it's kind of dependent upon if Bitcoin rallies here. I think Litecoin gets this next move up and potentially breaks 130, 140. This has been a weird rise so far. It's been just like straight vertical. Let's check the liquidation heat map. What the heck? I don't know. I feel like more sideways for a few more days is what's most likely now. Yeah, if this level holds, would be pretty bullish. We'll see, guys. I'm gonna go take a shower and sleep. But I appreciate you guys hanging out for that interview. Most of you guys stayed around for the whole thing. We'll see what happens tomorrow. It's kind of the last day in the week to pump. Bitcoin usually doesn't move over the weekends. So maybe we get some volatility tomorrow. Have a good night, friends. And I will see you all tomorrow. Peace, Vivachi. See ya, MK. Thanks for hanging out. See ya, Master, Vincent, Eric, Aaron. Nighty night. Eric, think we hold at 115? I think that's, yeah, that's a good place to bid if it does go down there. We'll see. I think most likely if this is the start of the impulse that this just goes sideways, but we'll see what happens tomorrow. I think setting bids at 115 makes sense. Alright, Vincent. Yeah, we'll see. Tomorrow I'll be live in 24 hours. So we'll see if we get that. Alright guys, see you later. Have a good night. Thanks again.